Hey everybody, Ben Dearman, KDR Fitness, Weight Loss Wizard. Today we're going to be talking about muscle building versus weight loss versus fat loss versus performance versus health and longevity. The person that chases 6 chickens never catches one. Let's get into it. So when we talk about these different goals, first of all of these goals are going to have these kind of specific components to them, meaning there's going to be a step component for every one of those goals. There will be a calorie component. There will be a protein component, a carb component, not so much a fat component. Fat is important, but the likelihood that you are under consuming fat, it would be like, I've never seen it happen. Let's just go with that, okay? There's going to be a body fat percent component, meaning what is your body fat percentage going to do? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down, right? There's going to be a resistance training component. There will be a sleep component. There will be a cardio component. And there will be a supplement component. So regardless of your goals, each one of those components is going to be a part of you reaching these goals, all right? And I really want you to really take this home. The person who chases 2 chickens never catches one. Or the person who chases 5 chickens never catches one. So this is really for the person that wants to build muscle at the same time that they want to drop their body fat, at the same time that they want to train for a powerlifting competition, at the same time as they want to go for mountain bike rides for 3 hours a week. For the same person that only gets 5 hours, right? So this is really for the person that is chasing multiple goals. If you only have a singular goal, meaning like, hey, I just want to lose weight, this isn't really for you. All right. If you have a singular goal, like, hey, I just want to, I want to do really, really well for my marathon season. Okay, that's performance. This doesn't really apply to you. All right. All right, let's get into it. So muscle building. For muscle building, your steps are going to be low to moderate. Now, they're low to moderate because a big thing with muscle building is sometimes people are walking too much and they're not eating enough food. And so what needs to happen is they have to back off on their steps in order to bring their calorie burn down a little bit so that they're in that calorie surplus. At the end of the day, in order to build muscle, you need to be in a calorie surplus. All right, so that's why calories over here, surplus at 200 to 400. Now, in order to build muscle, at the end of the day, you have to be in a calorie surplus. That means that you are moving a certain amount and you're eating a lot of food, or you're eating a moderate amount of food and you're moving a little bit less. All right, so that's where the steps for muscle building, low to moderate. Okay, steps for weight loss are almost always going to be high. What does high mean? High probably means potentially twice as many steps as you are taking right now. Steps for fat loss generally are going to be high. Weight loss and fat loss are very similar to each other. Very small difference between weight loss and fat loss. Steps for performance, not that important, and it depends. If you're doing something like, let's say you are training for a powerlifting competition, you're probably going to have to get some more steps in because you just don't burn that many calories in your workout, right? But on the flip side, let's say you're playing soccer, well, you probably don't have to get that many steps because you're playing soccer and you're running around, right? From a health and longevity standpoint, generally speaking, we want steps high, okay? So that's your steps. All right, calories. For a muscle building goal, we want you in a surplus of roughly 200 to 400 calories. Could be 200 to 500, but you don't have to be in that much of a surplus to build muscle, okay? For weight loss, you need to be in a deficit. How much of a deficit? 10%, 20%, maybe more, but generally speaking, 10 or 20% is pretty good. For fat loss, deficit. For performance, surplus. And you might need to be in a surplus of 2,000 calories for your performance. It really just depends on what are you doing? What are you trying to get better at? Are you trying to, you want to win a Tough Mudder at the end of September, and it's a 5K, might not have to be in that much of a surplus. Let's say you want to win a Spartan race, and it's a 13 miler, probably going to have to be in more of a surplus, right? So that really depends on what are you training for. If you're doing a triathlon, you're going to have to be in a pretty high surplus. If you're doing a 5K, not so much, right? Calories for health and longevity, maintenance. We want those at maintenance. All right, protein intake. Protein intake for muscle building, we want above 1 gram per pound of body weight. Now, these are very nuanced, okay? I'm giving you very generalized points for very specific goals, okay? At the end of the day, I really can't give you the specifics unless I have the specifics in front of me. All right, so these are general goals, okay? One way that we determine if protein intake is high enough for muscle building is with an in-body, right? Like, hey, you're eating 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Are you building muscle? Yes, you are. Great. That's an adequate amount. No, you're not building muscle off of 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Are you working hard enough? How's your recovery? Okay, we might need to up your protein intake, right? Weight loss. For weight loss, you're going to be about 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. Now, in all honesty, you could just stay at 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein for every goal that you have, all right? This is getting into like some kind of stupid nuance, but if you don't want to eat that much protein and you want to lose weight, you don't have to eat a gram. You probably go off of like 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, right? This also doesn't apply to somebody who's 300 pounds. That's a totally different story. Or somebody who's like 250. Different, okay? But if you're like 225 and under, this is going to apply to you. So for us, as far as protein, totally go off 1 gram per pound of body weight for everything. But if you want to get a little bit, if you're like, I don't want to eat that much protein and I just want to lose weight, you could probably go off of 0.8 grams, all right? So weight loss will be 0.8, a little bit less protein for weight loss, a little more protein for fat loss because we're specifically trying to lose fat, not weight, which means we want to maintain our muscle. Performance, generally speaking, you're going to eat a higher amount of protein for performance. However, that can be skewed by eating more carbs. We're not going to get into that right now. For health and longevity, again, 0.8 to 1 is good, or just 1 gram protein is also great, all right? Carbs. For muscle building, carbs are very important, very important. Moderate amount of carbohydrates. What is moderate? That is difficult to tell, okay? I personally would put moderate somewhere in the 150 to 200 grams per day, right? But again, you might be 300 grams or you might be 100. It really just depends, okay? But carbohydrates are very important for muscle building, okay? Carbs are not that important for weight loss, not that important for fat loss, so you can keep them a little bit lowish. Lowish should be like maybe 100-ish, 100 to 150. Performance, very high. Very important, but also depends. Okay, again, if you're like training for a powerlifting competition, carbs aren't that important to you. If you are training for a 3-hour bike race, you bet your ass carbs are very important to you. All right, so the performance for carbs really depends. Health and longevity, you want your carbs to be moderate. Body fat percent. Body fat percent is really based on all of these things, okay? So that's why it might go up, might go down. If you're training for muscle building, ideally body fat percentage should be going down, but if you're gaining body fat with muscle, well then your body fat percentage potentially could go up. So that's where an in-body comes in. Weight loss, body fat percent might go up. Because if you're losing 20 pounds, let's say you lost 20 pounds, and let's say you lost 10 pounds of muscle, 10 pounds of body fat, your body fat percentage is going to go up. So if you lost 20 pounds and you lost 18 pounds of body fat and 2 pounds of muscle, different story, probably go down, okay? Fat loss should go down, might go up. Same idea, all right? If you lost 20 pounds and 18 was fat and 2 was muscle, body fat percentage will probably go down. If you lost 20 pounds and 18 pounds were muscle and 2 pounds were fat, that's not really fat loss, that's muscle loss, then you're probably going to go up, okay? Performance. This is going to bug a lot of you, but generally speaking, when you're training for a performance goal, you're not too focused on your physique. We're not too focused on how much body fat percent you have unless it's detrimental to your goal. So for instance, let's say that you are a competitive runner and you do half marathons and 5Ks and marathons. Well, we want your body fat percentage as generally speaking as low as we can get it, right? Because if you're 30% body fat versus 20% body fat, that means you have an extra 10% body fat that you are running around with. Okay, so performance really, and from a body fat percentage, really does correlate to what is that specific goal. Do we need to get you leaner, right? Health and longevity, body fat percent will depend. That really just depends on, like, if you're a female and you're over 30% body fat, we want to get that down. If you're a male and you're over 20% body fat, we want to get that down. But once you get under 30% for a female, how low do you need to go? That really just depends on you, okay? So it could go up. There's also some people we've had come in, their BMI was too low, their body fat percentage was too low, they were having a lot of health issues, and we said, hey, you need to gain weight. And we took their body fat percentage up, we took their BMI up, and they felt much better, okay? So it really does depend. Resistance training. Resistance training for muscle building will be very intense, and it will typically be more than 3 days per week. Very, very, very intense. You will work the hardest in the gym when you are trying to build muscle. Resistance training for weight loss. Not needed. Not that important. It's important. Not that important for weight loss. Resistance training for fat loss. Important. Moderate intensity, 2 to 3 days a week. Why is resistance training for fat loss moderate intensity and resistance training for muscle building very intense? That has to do with your calorie intake. When you are trying to build muscle, you are eating more calories. There are 2 big reasons why I want you to eat more calories when you're building muscle, or if your goal is build muscle. Number 1, it gives you more nutrients to build that actual muscle that you're trying to build. And number 2, because you need a high amount of stimulus in the gym, that also means that you need more energy to put out into the gym. You got to work hard, right? Now, on the flip side, for fat loss, that means you're in a deficit. That means that you have a low amount of energy to put out in the gym, so you're not going to be able to work that hard, okay? So that's why moderate intensity, 2 to 3 days a week for resistance training for fat loss. Fat loss and weight loss is really about keeping your stress as low as possible. All these goals are about keeping your stress as low as possible. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Okay, performance. This is 2 to 3 days a week, but it also depends. If your performance goal is related to gym, like powerlifting, or you're doing a CrossFit stuff, or high rocks, or whatever, you're going to be working out more. Let's say your goal is more aimed towards like running or bike riding or swimming or something along those lines, then you are probably going to be not working out as much, but you're still going to be working out, right? So 2 to 3 days a week depends. And generally speaking, those resistance training workouts are going to be like moderate intensity. For health and longevity, as much as you can recover from. 2 days a week, great. 5 days a week, awesome. Not necessarily benefit to 5 days a week over 2 days a week, because it really just depends on what can you recover from. Might be high intensity, 2 days a week. Might be low intensity, 5 days a week. Really just depends, all right? Sleep, for all intents and purposes, okay, sleep is very, very important for all of these goals, all right? Now, having said that, it's not as important for weight loss and fat loss, but it is still, for all intents and purposes, very important. Sleep is kind of like the protein thing. You probably do 1 gram protein per pound of body weight regardless of your goals and be really, really good. The more sleep you get, generally speaking, the better the results you're going to get. And the less sleep you get, generally speaking, the worse results you're going to get. So sleep, pretty much important for everything. Cardio for muscle building. Generally speaking, you're going to get it done with your steps. For weight loss, you're going to get it done with your steps. For fat loss, you're going to get it done with your steps. For performance, it depends. Really just depends on your goal. If you're playing soccer 3 days a week, you're getting it done. If you're training for a powerlifting competition, probably have to put some cardio in. And health and longevity, probably going to get it done with your steps, but it also depends. Generally speaking, the recommendations are 150 minutes of moderate grade activity per week for cardio/heart health. Okay. Now, 150 minutes of moderate grade activity. Well, let's say you're not doing moderate. Let's say you're doing low grade activity. It's going to be more. It'll be like 220 minutes. per week. Let's say you're doing really, really high intense activity, going to be less. Could maybe get it done with 90 minutes per week. Okay, so kind of gives you an idea. Supplements. Supplements for muscle building, very important. I don't know of anybody who has built any appreciable amount of muscle that has not been taking some level of supplements. Supplements for weight loss, important. Supplements for fat loss, important. Supplements for performance, very important. Again, I don't know of... I can't think of anybody that performs at a very, very high level that doesn't take supplements. And it could just be basic stuff. Multivitamin, vitamin D, magnesium, creatine, the basic shit that we want you guys to take. And supplements for health and longevity, very important. All right. Hopefully, this clears out some confusion with training for multiple goals at once. You can train for multiple goals at once. We call that concurrent training. And you can lose fat and build muscle. You can lose weight and build muscle and lose fat. You can build muscle and lose fat. You can train for a performance goal and build muscle and lose fat. But the problem is, it's very hard to make all of those goals happen. Because the more we focus on multiple things, the more our attention is divided. And some of these things are directly opposed to each other. So for instance, if you're trying to build muscle while also training for a performance goal, well, that requires a high level of calories, a high-ish level of protein, a high level of carbs. It means that you're going to be working out in the gym, plus doing all the performance stuff that you want to do. So if you're playing soccer, it means you're going to be in the gym plus playing soccer. It means your sleep has to be, so it just means you have to dial everything into a much greater degree, and you can kiss all of your free time goodbye. So hopefully this shines some lights on some things that we have been talking with some of you about. And again, the goal is to really focus on one thing. I want to build muscle. I want to lose weight. I want to lose fat. I want to perform better at whatever it is I want to perform better at. I want to live longer, be healthier. Okay? One of those goals. Focus on one of those goals.